how I choose the right luggage. Now, I'm not going to talk about different types of luggage and what to look for in this piece itself. I'm going to talk about how I select a correct piece of luggage for the trip that I'm going on. It can be a little more complex than you probably think. So let's dive into it. The first thing I look at is what luggage type am I going to bring? Am I going to bring a wheeled suitcase, or am I going to bring just a backpack or maybe a duffel, something that doesn't have wheels? And I do that depending on the type of trip. Is it a short trip? Is it a trip where I'm driving? Is it a trip where maybe I'm going to Europe and I don't want to be rolling a bag down cobble streets and other uneven pavement or laying it up and down? It's lots of flights of stairs. So I start looking at that. So here's a couple examples. Last year, I did about 4 weeks in Europe and I took only a backpack. I did that just because I didn't want to be lugging around a wheelie suitcase, whether that was 2 or 4 wheels. It was a lot easier to get on and off trains, to go up 5 stories with stairs. One of the buildings I was in didn't have an elevator. So that was one example. Another example is sometimes if I'm just going for like a quick weekend trip and I'm driving, all I have to do is walk my bag from here to the car and then the car to the hotel. So I don't feel like I need wheels to roll and take the weight off of my back. And I also just don't pack a ton in a bag. You don't want to get too heavy with your bag. So that's one thing I look at, is what is the type of trip that I'm taking. I also look at the length of the trip. So if it's a weekend thing, yeah, backpack works great. If it's a longer trip, then I start looking at bringing wheeled bags, whether that's a 2 wheel or a 4 wheel. We'll get into how I choose between a 2 and a 4 wheel. But looking at the length of the trip, what size bag do I need? A lot of times, as in most of the time, I travel carry-on only, various sizes, but usually the standard bag that fits both European and American airlines. Not American Airlines, the brand, but like American-based airlines. So I'll travel with a carry-on suitcase. And then kind of related, kind of not, for length of trip, but it does go hand in hand. Also looking at the environment that I'm going and the destinations I'm going to. So if I'm going to destinations where, let's say I'm starting up in a cold destination in the north and then eventually working my way south where it's going to be warmer, I'm obviously not going to want to be wearing my long wool space layers and sweaters when I'm now down south and the temperature is way different. So sometimes when I do that, I'll bring a bigger suitcase. Sometimes I'll check one. I've had instances where I was able to store a bag somewhere and then fly back through and swap my clothes, if that makes any sense, to my summer clothes. We'll be doing that again this year, so that works out really well. But in instances like that, if I know I'm going to need more space to accommodate different clothes for different weather, then yeah, I will definitely be bringing a bigger suitcase. Try as I might, sometimes you just can't make it work with looking at what you have and trying to not overpack. Condense and consolidate, it just is not always the easiest thing to do, especially when you're going from extreme environments. I'm not saying it's not possible, but if you're going from like the Arctic and then you're going to end your trip in Spain at the end of, let's say, June, so you're going May to June, well, you're going from about 26 degrees Fahrenheit down into the 70s and 80s Fahrenheit. Not going to be wearing wool in 70 to 80 degrees. So that's just one example. I look at the weather for bags. Let's talk about wheels on suitcases. I know it's popular these days to bring a 4 wheel suitcase. There's a lot of reasons why I do my best to avoid it every single time I can. I'm nothing against 4 wheel suitcases. I have multiple of them. I think they're wonderful, especially when you kind of check bag and you're rolling through the airport. I get it. They're super easy. They're convenient. There's a lot of reasons I avoid them. One, they're a whole heck of a lot more prone to breaking those wheels. That can be because people are lifting your bag, and instead of using the handles, they're using the wheels. They are not designed to be lifted by the wheels. Just gonna tell you that right now. That joint, that connection with the box portion of the suitcase, it will break. I have had that happen to me multiple times, and it sucks every single time and reminds me why I do my best not to bring a four-wheel suitcase. I know some people are gonna say, "Hey, well, you just need to invest in a better suitcase." Sure, if that's the way you wanna justify my suitcase breakage, go for it. The reality is things happen. They're not designed to be lifted that way, and they do break. Bags, especially check bags, go through a lot of use and abuse once you put it on that conveyor belt and it goes into the bowels of the airport before it makes it to the plane and back again. So I do my best to avoid four-wheel suitcases. And I also do that because depending on the destination I'm going to, I don't want to be trying to wheel a four-wheel suitcase across cobbles and uneven pavement. It's rough, not only rough to just get through the experience, but it's rough on your suitcase. And again, four-wheel suitcases are not meant to be rolled on two wheels. Yes, you can do that, but that is not the way they were designed. So I try my best to avoid them when I can. I have a two-wheel suitcase. It is quite possibly the most expensive suitcase I own. It was a big investment for me, and I absolutely adore it. I take it everywhere I possibly can. It's just I've had a great experience with it, and I love two wheels because I can roll over just about any type of, pathway, and I can quite frankly, I can get away with it. It just bounces along behind me. It was designed to be rolled that way. There's nowhere for a baggage handler to pick it up by the wheels and break it. This bag is a carry-on size. It has been checked and has also obviously not been checked. I've been overhead bins, but it has, gone with me everywhere from as far north as Scotland down to, Antarctica. It has been below the Antarctic Circle, just fun fact. So I absolutely love this bag. I can't sing its praises enough. I love a two-wheel. I always have. We could go into the ergonomics between using a four-wheel and two-wheel. That's not really what this is about. I guess, for comfort, it is a little more comfortable to wheel a four-wheel suitcase versus pulling a two-wheel, but, I prefer a two-wheel. I'm old school, always I guess always have been, about these things. So I've digressed. I'm a little bit, on my soapbox here. I guess other things I take into account are, like, it's like, what have I talked about? No, see, now I know all my Ziplocs about two-wheel versus four-wheel. We talked about, like, the weather. I guess modes of transportation as well is a huge thing. If I guess I've kinda touched on it, but I don't know that I really covered it. Definitely, modes of transportation. One of the considerations I always take into account is what airline am I flying and what are their restrictions on suitcases for carry-on. Airlines have become extraordinarily strict about these things to the point that, quite frankly, it is overkill. Um, I have a lot of opinions on it. I don't agree with it. I think it's absolutely ridiculous for so many reasons. But I've flown airlines where you've already made it to the gate and they make every single person remeasure their bag before they get on the aircraft. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that is the most absolutely stupid, ridiculous thing in the world. Just saying it will never ever change my tune on that one. So I always think about, okay, well, what are their restrictions? Because I don't wanna deal with them. I don't wanna be told to check my bag at the gate. I don't wanna be told I'm gonna pay more. I also wanna make sure that not only that it's their correct size, but I'm not gonna overpack it 'cause sometimes, and I have seen this too, they will weigh your bag again at the gate, and again, that is the most absolutely ridiculous thing in the world, and I don't care what their argument is for it. So I always make sure whatever the mode of transportation is, and the same, quite frankly, can be same. Well, I can speak today. Can be said for trains. It can be said for buses. There's a lot of times when I like to pack a smaller bag if I'm on a train, for example, because I know that bag can go in the overhead, above the seats and the tables, and I don't have to leave it at the end of the train in the luggage section. 'Cause I just worry, someone's gonna accidentally take the wrong bag, or maybe they're a little more maybe they wanna steal a bag. I don't know. I like to think the best in people, but, um, I think about that as well, like, is this a bag that can stay with me the entire trip and I can keep my eyes on it? So, just things to think about. I could go on and on and on, but I feel like I'm starting to get get a little bit on my a little opinionated soapbox, so I will leave it there. I hope that was helpful, and if it was, great, let me know in the comments. If it wasn't, great, take it up with somebody else. Okay, on that bombshell, I'll stop rambling, and I'll catch you on the next one.